You retire at 62. Your accounts feel solid. The IRS already has a date on the calendar for you, and you have probably never run the math. I keep seeing the same exact pattern with people in their early 60s, and it goes like this. You did everything right. You maxed the 401k. You rolled it into a traditional IRA. The balance looks healthy. And nobody, not the firm holding the money, not the broker who set it up, has ever shown you what that account is contractually going to do to your tax return at age 73 or 75. So let me show you. If you are a homeowner in your 60s, with $500,000 to $2 million sitting in a traditional IRA or 401k, this is your video. We are going to walk the math forward, name the 3 taxes that fire at the same time, and find the window you still have open. Here is the math. Picture $900,000 in a traditional IRA today. Conservative growth, 6% a year, 12 years until you hit the required withdrawal age. That account does not stay at $900,000, it grows to roughly $1,810,000 by the time the IRS taps you on the shoulder. The Uniform Lifetime Table that the IRS uses to calculate your forced withdrawal puts the factor at 24.6 for a 75-year-old. Divide 1.81 million by 24.6 and you get a mandatory withdrawal of about $73,577. That is taxable every year for the rest of your life. You might be thinking the obvious thing. What if I just don't take it? What if I leave the money alone? The IRS anticipated that. The penalty for missing your required minimum distribution is 25% of the shortfall, reducible to 10% if you fix it within 2 years. It is one of the steepest penalties in the tax code, and it is a non-negotiable. You take the money, they tax the money. That is the deal. Now there is a fair pushback here, and I want to name it. For people sitting on $300,000 or $400,000 in a traditional account, the forced withdrawal does not push you into a meaningfully higher bracket. The math is real, but the impact is muted. The pain compounds for people in the $500,000 to $2 million range, where the withdrawal is large enough to drag 2 other taxes along with it. If that's you, hit that like. So why does this happen at 73, or for some of you, 75? The rule is tied to your birth year. If you were born between 1951 and 1959, your required start age is 73. If you were born in 1960 or later, it pushes to 75 in 2033. That gap between when you actually retire and when the IRS forces you to start withdrawing is somewhere between 7 and 10 years for most people. 7 to 10 years where your taxable income is the lowest it has been in decades. 7 to 10 years where you can walk into the year on purpose, decide what bracket you want to fill, and fill it deliberately. After that, the IRS decides. Before that, you do. There is a second window living inside that first window, and almost nobody talks about it. The 2025 senior deduction. If you are 65 or older, you get a $6,000 deduction. $12,000 for a married couple. It is available for tax years 2025 through 2028 only. It phases out at $150,000 of modified adjusted gross income for joint filers, $75,000 for singles. After 2028, it disappears. Picture a 66-year-old couple in 2027, both retired, both qualifying. That $12,000 of bonus deduction creates real bracket room for a Roth conversion in that exact year. The same conversion in 2029 will cost real money because the deduction will have stalled out. And yes, before you ask, this is the kind of timing detail your account statement does not flag for you. The skeptical version of this argument is, well, who knows what tax rates do in 20 years? Fair. Future rates are genuinely unknowable, but the federal debt is roughly $38.92 trillion right now, which is the factual context for the opinion that rates are more likely to drift up than down. I will say this part is my opinion. I find it hard to look at that number and conclude rates are headed lower. Even if they stay flat, the bracket filling case still works. So you are not betting the farm on a rate prediction. You are using a window that is mathematically valuable in almost any rate environment. Now here's what people miss. The forced withdrawal is not one tax. It is the trigger for 3. I'm going to walk through them. The first is bracket creep. Picture a married couple, both 73 with $1 million in a traditional IRA. Their first year required withdrawal at the 73 factor of 26.5 is about $37,736. Stack that on top of $60,000 of Social Security and a small pension, and they are well into the next bracket without earning a single new dollar. The second tax is the one that surprises people. Once your provisional income as a married couple clears $44,000, up to 85% of your Social Security benefits become taxable as ordinary income. That same couple, with their $37,000 required withdrawal stacked on Social Security, blows past $44,000 before lunch. So they are not just paying tax on the IRA withdrawal, They are also paying tax on Social Security benefits they assumed were mostly tax-free. Social Security is not insurance. It is means-tested income now. You hit a number and a chunk of it gets taxed. The third tax is the Medicare premium surcharge, called IRMAA. And this is the one that breaks people's planning because it works on a 2-year delay. The income on your tax return today determines your Medicare premium 2 years from now. The 2026 first-tier IRMAA threshold for married filers is $218,000 of modified adjusted gross income. Single filers, $109,000. Cross by $1 and the surcharge fires for both spouses. Cross into the second tier, $274,000 married, $137,000 single, and the cost climbs again. Crossing the first threshold for a couple costs roughly $2,297 a year in extra Medicare premiums between the two of you. And remember, you do not feel that bill until 2028, when you have already filed and forgotten the conversion that triggered it. There is also a stealth tax on top called the net investment income tax, 3.8% on certain investment income above the threshold, which has been on the books since 2013. I'll say this honestly, the dollar bill is bad enough, but the timing is the part that drives me crazy. You can do everything right in the year of the conversion and still get hit 2 years later because the surcharge math runs on lookback. If you've ever felt that, done the work, then gotten hosed by the timing, drop a comment below saying whether you're a single filer or filing jointly. The single threshold is half the married one, and the math runs different. Okay, so here is the framework. In 2026, the top of the 24% bracket for a married couple filing jointly is $403,550 of taxable income. The top of the 22% bracket is $211,400. For a single filer, the 22% bracket tops out at $105,700. If your projected retirement income at 63 is around $80,000 of taxable income, you have roughly $130,000 of headroom inside the 22% bracket alone, or more if you are willing to convert into the 24% bracket. That is a lot of room. The strategy is not to fill it all in 1 year. It is to convert enough each year to fill up to a chosen ceiling, reassess, then do it again. Every dollar you convert this way is a dollar that is permanently removed from the future required withdrawal calculation. But, and this is where the precision matters, the bracket ceiling and the IRMAA ceiling are two different numbers. The top of the 22% bracket is $211,400. The first IRMAA tier triggers at $218,000. So your real ceiling, if you are Medicare eligible, is the lower of those two numbers minus a buffer for safety. $5,000 of conversion too much, and you have just bought yourself a Medicare surcharge that compounds over years. There is a corner case worth naming. If you are already in a high-income year, selling a business, exercising stock options, large capital gains, converting on top of that may put you in the highest bracket, and the math no longer works. Top bracket conversions can be money losers once you factor in time value. The bracket filling case works best when you have actual unused bracket space. If you don't, wait a year. Now let me name the most expensive mistake. Roth conversions became irreversible in 2018. Before that, you could undo a conversion if you crossed a threshold by accident. That option is gone, which means a conversion done in the wrong year, one that accidentally spikes IRMAA or pushes you into a higher bracket, cannot be unwound. There is no takeback, so the timing has to be right the first time. The second most expensive mistake is paying the conversion tax from inside the IRA. If you withhold the tax from the converted funds, you are reducing the amount that grows tax-free for the rest of your life. The IRS treats withholding from an IRA distribution as if it were spread evenly throughout the year, which is sometimes useful for safe harbor math, but it shrinks your converted balance. The cleaner approach is to pay the tax from a taxable brokerage account. A quick word on the safe harbor rules because this trips people up. To avoid an underpayment penalty, you need to have paid in either 90% of your current year tax bill or 100% of last year's, whichever is smaller. If your adjusted gross income is over $150,000, the safe harbor jumps to 110% of last year's bill. A large Roth conversion will spike your current year tax, so the smart move is usually to track to last year's number to stay safe. Counter on the upfront tax because I want to dispatch it cleanly. Why would I voluntarily write a check to the IRS today for a tax I would otherwise owe in 15 years? It is psychologically painful. I get it. But the alternative is letting the balance grow for 15 more years, then writing a much bigger check in a higher bracket with Social Security and Medicare consequences attached. Loss aversion makes the today check feel bigger than the future check, even when the future check is mathematically larger. That is a cognitive bias. It is not a strategy. If this changed how you think about it, subscribe so you can get more. There is one specific situation where Roth conversions are not the right tool. If you have strong charitable intent and you are over 70 and a half, qualified charitable distributions from your IRA count toward your required withdrawal and are excluded from gross income entirely. QCDs have a cap that adjusts for inflation, and they cannot go to donor-advised funds, so they are not a universal substitute. But for charitably-minded retirees, a combination of QCDs for the giving piece and conversions for everything else is often the optimal mix. The Roth IRA also has no required withdrawals during your lifetime, which is the entire point. And for non-spouse heirs, the Secure Act says they have to drain the inherited account within 10 years. If that account is a Roth, the withdrawals are tax-free. If it is a traditional IRA, the heir pays at their own rate, which may be higher than yours. One more situation almost nobody plans for: the surviving spouse trap. In 2026, a married couple with $400,000 of joint income is in the 24% bracket. A surviving spouse filing single on similar income is in the 35% bracket. Same income, different filing status, 11 percentage points of difference. Every Roth conversion you do while both spouses are alive happens at the joint rate. Every dollar you leave in a traditional IRA is a dollar your surviving spouse may have to withdraw at the single rate. That is a cost most couples never model. So here is your action checklist. Pull your most recent traditional IRA and 401k statements. Add them up. Project the balance forward to your required withdrawal start age, 73 or 75 depending on your birth year, using a 6% growth assumption. Divide by the appropriate factor, 26.5 at age 73, 24.6 at age 75. Stack that withdrawal on your projected Social Security and other income. Ask yourself what bracket that lands you in. Does it cross the $44,000 Social Security threshold? Does it approach the $218,000 IRMAA threshold? You can run that arithmetic on a calculator app in 15 minutes. Today, you can be the person who walks into 73 having already chosen your tax bracket year by year on purpose. Or you can be the person whose bracket gets chosen by an IRS table. Those are the two outcomes. There is no third one. This is general education, not personalized advice. Before you act on any of this, take your projection to a fee-only fiduciary financial planner or a CPA who does multi-year tax projections. The precision matters, and your situation has details a video cannot see. The next thing worth understanding is that the IRS treats one specific age in your 60s differently from every other age, and the decisions you make at that exact age can mean the difference between paying one Medicare premium and paying nearly 3 times that amount every month for years. That is the next video on screen. I will see you there.